On today's Movie Talk, we've got Rise of Skywalker box office projections. Then we're reviewing the upcoming Little Women movie directed by Greta Gerwig. And Elizabeth Banks has a brand new directing gig. Apparently, it's Invisible Woman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Collider Movie Talk this wonderful Wednesday. I hope you are ready to sit back and relax and hear about some movie news while you plan for your holiday. Safe travels to all out there. Hello. Scott Vance and John Rocha.
Hello. How are you?
How are you guys doing?
Perri Nemiroff.
I don't even have to ever ask you how you're doing. You walk into this studio glowing every single time.
Because I am happy to be here. Collider is my happy place because I love everyone working. I love everyone. You're all my friends, and we're all like-minded, very passionate about movies. What's not to love?
It's either because of that or because of whatever Rocha's drinking. I don't know what that is, but it boosted his mood this morning.
It's raining, it's pouring. Get ready, because this show ain't going to be boring. Let's have some fun.
My
Collider
God,
Movie Talk.
you're so in the holiday spirit. I
And
can't
tonight,
handle
John
it.
Rocha will be snoring.
That's right. Tonight, yes.
All right, let's get into this first story here. It is some box office projections for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This report comes from Variety, and apparently the movie right now is on pace for a start between $175 million and $200 million. This is according to early tracking, and we know sometimes tracking is right, sometimes it's not. Of late, it has not been right. So you guys hear this number. How much weight do you put in it? Do you think it was too high, too low?
You go, John.
Well, I think for me, personally, it struck me as being a little low. And I know people are like, what's $200 million? How could that be low? But everything you have to take in context. And that is, Force Awakens was what, 245 or 242, something like that. Last Jedi's 220, right around there. And this is coming at 175 to 200, which means it could go to 175. That to me speaks volumes about how fractured the Star Wars fan base is and how they're not as excited overall as they have been in times past to go and see these kinds of movies. And it isn't just another installment. This is the wrap up. And as the wrap-up, I believe there should be way more buzz about in terms of the box office and the early tracking for this in the $250 million range, in my opinion. Because, you look at, Avengers Endgame, that was at 240-something, 260-something?
Higher than
You're
that.
right, 325, sorry.
357.
I remember we were all going crazy that it was even coming close to 300, but whatever it was pretty incredible. Star Wars has been around much longer than the MCU and Marvel, and has been in our lives for so long that I'm shocked that it's kind of this low.
Okay, I agree with all your points, but you also have to keep in mind that when The Force Awakens opened in 2015 to $247 million, we hadn't had a Star Wars movie in 10 years. We hadn't had anything in Star Wars in 10 years, but we had a couple of Star Trek movies that JJ directed. So it was new product, but it was also the return of Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford to the franchise, of course, also Chewbacca, R2-3PO. It felt like a Star Wars movie. But now, so between the disappointment of Solo and the divided fan reaction of The Last Jedi, Star Wars has sort of been taken down a couple of notches in terms of expectations. But you also, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, you have on Disney Plus The Mandalorian, which is amazing. The Mandalorian is the best thing to happen to Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back. It is that good because it is different, it is dark, it is mature, it is daring, but it very much feels like Star Wars, which is all the things that I loved about The Empire Strikes Back, but I digress. The point is that there's more Star Wars product out there, so the anticipation isn't as high. Having said that, 200 million, not a bad opening by any measure, even a Star Wars one. And I actually think that, because like you pointed out, John, that this is the last of this saga that started in 1977, and the payoff could be really, really big. I think that these numbers are conservative and low.
Yes.
I think the movie's going to get closer to 250 million. That's just domestic. That's not worldwide.
Okay. No, that's a big number. Bringing up a conservative number here, I think it's important to read this piece from the Variety article. They're saying Disney is aiming to manage expectations since tracking has been unreliable in recent weeks, but box office watchers are optimistic that Rise of Skywalker will end the year on a high note. Overall, ticket sales have plunged over 7% from last year, according to ComScore. Wars. So exhibitors and studios alike are banking on an especially lucrative holiday movie-going season to help close the gap. So that's why we might be seeing a number that looks like this right now. And as we always say whenever we cover box office tracking, that's right now. As we inch closer and we get more marketing and the hype continues to build, that number will change. When reviews come out, that number could change fairly significantly. And just so you guys have a very clear picture of where this range stands in the latest Star Wars releases, here's a chart of all of the openings. We had Force Awakens open up with $248 million. Last Jedi kicked off its run with $220. Rogue One opened up with $155, and then we had Solo open up with $84 million. So, you know, admittedly, when I saw these numbers and I noticed specifically that it was lower than Last Jedi, I was thinking, you know, that sounds like a little bit of a bummer. Could that reflect the divide in the franchise? But I think there's even more to it than that, because I was looking back at Force Awakens in particular and looking at the release calendar, and I think, you know, most other parts of the year were saying things like, oh, Avengers Endgame is just obliterating all competition around it. Whereas it seems like in December, as of late, some of the wealth, even with the juggernaut like Star Wars in the mix, some of the wealth is getting spread around a little. It's like we have a movie like Jumanji that, yes, opens the weekend before, but the last installment proved that that's a series that could have legs. So I think there are opportunities for something like Jumanji and Cats to make money. And we saw that same thing happen with Last Jedi and its competition.
Well, I think it's as far as like the box office projections and tracking. You're right, tracking has been off, but in most of the cases where the tracking has been off, the projections have been conservative, low. Ford versus Ferrari, which is a terrific movie, was projected to open in the low 20s, and it opened with $31 million. And everyone loves this movie. Everyone loves Ford versus Ferrari. Even in its second weekend, when it got obliterated by Frozen 2, it still held on less than, it was a less than 50% drop.
49%
well,
drop.
Disney went with this same path with projections with Frozen. Those numbers, those expectations, those projections were lower, and then Frozen came out, and it surprised everyone with a higher number. But we have seen a lot of expectations come in way above what a movie was going to make, like, let's say, Dr. Sleep or Terminator Dark Fate. And Charlie's Angels. There's a whole bunch of studio releases that turned out to be major disappointments well under tracking.
Well, it's always good to underpromise and overdeliver, right? And I think Disney's playing that game with Frozen, and it worked out for them. You know, it's all about looks. It's all about branding. It's all about how it's going to look overall. And Perri, you bring up an interesting point with Jumanji and with Greatest Showman, as we saw that was the year of the Jedi, right? And I was a big fan of Showman, but of course that only opened for I think it only opened at like 9 million that weekend.
It was never number one.
It was never number one. And then you look at Jumanji, nobody expected that thing. I mean, I was there for that first junket, and I remember all the representatives from Sony were telling me we would just be happy if we came in at number 2. We're not expecting, and then it just really blew up. So you talk about this, but here's what helped that situation happen was the divisiveness of Last Jedi. That has to be factored in. It's not about just the competition. It's the fact that the product you put out was divisive. If this comes out and is divisive, then yes, I think everything you just laid out will absolutely happen to The Rise of Skywalker as well. But if it comes out and it's incredible, then I think it will obliterate whatever the competition is, no matter what they did 2 years ago.
And I do think that there's something to be said about the mixed reactions to The Last Jedi and Solo. Of course, you have your fans who love those movies, and hats off to them. I mean, I think both movies have their merits, but of course, both movies also had their detractors. Critics really liked The Last Jedi. Like, critically, on Rotten Tomatoes, it actually had a really positive score. It was the fans, like a lot of the fans, not all of them, but certainly a lot of them were burned. But again, I'm going back to The Mandalorian here. I think because The Mandalorian is a weekly show, not just one thing, but people are watching The Mandalorian, and episode after episode, they are going, wow, this is a really great show. So all of the burn that some of the fans felt with Last Jedi and Solo, they are getting won over. They're winning back to the Star Wars series because of the greatness of The Mandalorian. I love it.
I really do think the fact that Mandalorian has arrived and it seems to be very widely loved right now. I think that actually, I don't think it's necessarily gonna, bump it up 50 million or something, but I do think The Mandalorian is working in Rise of Skywalker's favor a little bit.
Hang on. I just want to say one thing about The Mandalorian. let's not. I mean, first of all, Baby Yoda. I cannot get enough.
I was
of Baby
waiting
Yoda.
for those words to be
Baby
uttered.
Yoda.
You had
Baby
said
Yoda.
so many wonderful things about Mandalorian, and it took you that long to bring up Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. Okay, now you mean to tell me? So Mandalorian, just to sort of anticipate where Rise of Skywalker could be going. So you're introducing Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian, which takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Be mindful about spoilers.
This is not a spoiler. Not a spoiler.
Just
but
putting the warning out there in case.
What if The Mandalorian is tied to the Rise of Skywalker?
I've thought about that. I believe I don't want to throw out a name and give this theory, put this theory on someone's shoulders if it didn't come from them. But someone had pointed out, because I believe that week the episode of The Mandalorian hits on Wednesday and not Friday. And yes, that might be because Rise of Skywalker is in theaters. But I just wonder if there's going to be something in that episode that you need.
Oh my God!
Right.
But that could be a stretch. They really could, but they really could have just moved the release of that episode to ensure people have time to stay home and watch it, because everyone's going to be going out to see Rise of Skywalker in theaters. I don't know. It's a fun thing to think about,
Can I push back on this enthusiasm a little bit?
Come on!
All right, here's the deal. The Mandalorian is made by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. It has nothing to do with the Rise of Skywalker, the people who created Rise of Skywalker. That is important to understand. Fans will disseminate the difference between the two. And it's not because, oh, I see Rise of Skywalker. That means they're going to get this thing right. No, it just means, I love this. I really hope this works. That's what I think most of the fandom is approaching this as. Two separate things. Just because Black Panther is good doesn't mean Captain Marvel is going to be good.
And
it's all you got to take on its own thing. You hope it's going to be good, but you don't necessarily think it's going to be good.
There is truth to a franchise building momentum with good things. That is what it is.
Yeah, well, possibly, because it's like, this is a TV show. That's a movie. Once again, two different things.
No, I guess they are two different things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never been a live action Star Wars TV series, and it's been so far. I've seen three episodes are posted, and I've loved them all. Especially the third one was amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't think the idea that The Mandalorian is a standalone thing that doesn't tie in at any way to the final installment of the epic saga, Episode 9. I don't think that they would just sort of make it standalone and not have it tie in at all.
I'm sure they will.
It would be very smart. It would be very smart for their service that they're putting a lot in right now. And especially when you look at what that same company is doing with Marvel, where they are purposely tying the two things together so strongly.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying, I wonder if fans are going, this is cool. I don't know about this, because there's a track record for this that isn't 100% positive, while there's a track record for Mandalorian that is 100% positive right now.
So let me get this straight. So the last episode of The Mandalorian is going to drop on Disney Plus.
It's after Christmas, the last episode of Mandalorian, I believe.
Okay, gotcha. But the
episode she's talking about will be the week of it.
Okay, the week that Rise of the Jedi opens on Friday, that episode of Mandalorian will drop on a Wednesday, and then Rise of Skywalker will open on a Friday, and then the last episode will be the following week. Oh my gosh.
So for some dates right now, we're talking specifically about episode 6. First, it drops on December 13th, which is when Jumanji opens. But then the next episode of The Mandalorian hits on December 18th. Yeah. And then after that, we get another episode. That's the Taika Waititi episode. And that drops on December 27th.
Okay, so the question is for everyone watching. The question is for everyone watching and listening. Do you think that The Mandalorian will pay off in Rise of the Jedi? That's the question.
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Rise of the Jedi. Which is all right. It might be the Rise of the Jedi with the Skywalker. But I think you bring up a great point, Perri. It may be one of two things. One, are they dropping it just to kind of clear that weekend, or are they dropping it because, like a lot of series we've seen recently, the penultimate episode is the episode to watch, not the finale necessarily of a season, but the one right before the finale. It certainly happened with Game of Thrones almost every season. So maybe they're doing the same thing here with Mandalorian, same formula, and they're connecting something into the Rise of Skywalker. I don't think it'll be like an integral part of Rise of Skywalker, but certainly it'll have something for fans to kind of pay off watching the series.
This is very exciting.
I would bet on it at this point, and I think it might be more so coming from wishful thinking, just because I think that would be really cool. And I've been really enjoying Mandalorian in general, but in particular, I love Mandalorian culture and lore. And I don't know, even if it's just like a sliver of representation on the big screen, I kind of want to see that pop up in some capacity.
It's definitely wishful thinking, and I hope that that I hope that does happen.
Okay, wait. Before we move on to Little Women, quickly around the table, where do you think right now Rise of Skywalker is going to land? I know you already said 250.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barring good, if it's good reviews, 250. If it's mixed reviews, 190, 195.
Okay. All right, Perri, what about you?
You're kind of cheating the system. I wanted you to pick one number.
I can't pick in a vacuum.
Okay.
No.
I think I'm coming in right around Last Jedi right now. I have a feeling that, and again, it's wishful thinking, but I can't help it. I like looking on the bright side. I do think that JJ is going to deliver a crowd pleaser to wrap things up.
I do too.
I think that the end of the Skywalker saga is going to add some added hype that maybe Last Jedi had a little less of. I'm coming in right around 220 right now.
Okay.
I just see people complaining online about that clip already. Like, oh, they fly now. People are complaining about that already.
Well,
so I'm like, people are waiting. There are some people.
Admittedly, I complained about it, but I will fully admit it's a 30-second clip that's taken out of context within the actual film itself.
Sure.
That could play better.
You're a
And
logical
also-
narrative person. Maybe some of the fans aren't. Yeah.
Also, for those of us old enough to remember who are actually there, when The Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980, everyone complained that it was too dark. When Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, everyone complained about the Ewoks, and they're still complaining about the Ewoks. They will always find something
I
to
will
complain
never
about.
complain about Ewoks,
But in
ever,
the end,
ever.
I will.
In the end, it is a Star Wars
You
movie.
look like you belong on
It
Endor
should have
right
been
now.
Wookiees. It should have been
should have been
Wookiees.
the
Oh, yeah,
Wookiees.
with this thing.
And Han Solo should have died.
I would seriously believe it too. Like you on a speeder or something.
Yeah,
And Han Solo
kick
should have
ass.
died in Return of the
That'd
Jedi,
be
just
fun.
like Harrison
Yeah.
Ford wanted.
Right.
But he did, anyway.
All right,
Okay,
all
moving
right.
on.
We'll see how these predictions pan out soon enough. Next up, we actually have a movie talk review for you right now. We're going to review Greta Gerwig's latest film. It's Little Women. So before we even jump into our reviews, I've managed to do what I think is the impossible. I've avoided in my life all forms of Little Women. This is the first time I've ever experienced the story in full. You guys know my taste in film, and I tend to shy away from, like schmaltzy romantic period piece type things. So I never thought I would like a movie like this. I fell so hard for it. I was like in a puddle of my own tears throughout
Why?
a good deal of this movie.
What was it that you connected to?
I think the thing that I connected to more so than anything was the sister element.
Okay.
There's certain things like I don't want to spoil anything for folks who don't know the story like I did, because a lot of things did come as a nice surprise to me. But, there's instances of, let's say Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh maybe butting heads at point and then seeing them come together at other points. Just so much of that rings so true as someone who has a sibling that now I'm very close to. And I don't know, it's just I found the emotion of that part of the movie kind of like almost overwhelming.
What'd you think, John?
I absolutely loved it. And I went in like this. I went in like a dude going in to go be like, I don't want to see these four girls doing whatever this is all about, but I have to watch it because I have to vote in the LOFCS voting. And I was like, okay, but I thoroughly loved it. And I was supposed to go to another screening, missed that screening because I wanted to finish watching the movie. I didn't know it was 2 hours and 20 minutes long. So I stayed the whole time and absolutely loved it. Liked it way better than that 90s version with Winona Ryder and Susan Sarandon. I thought what Greta Gerwig did here was leap to the next level as a director. From Lady Bird to this is almost like flying to the moon. Her eye is so smart now. Her ability to pace a film correctly, her genius to do the time jumping thing that she does in the film is incredible as well. And the performances that she gets out of this phenomenal cast, from like Chris Cooper to all the way to Saoirse Ronan, is incredible. From Tracy Letts, who has a fun few scenes in it, is incredible. But more than anything else, it's the way she paces the film that gets you excited and interested, and the way she kind of massages some of the harder edges of the characters to make it fit within the world, the story she wants to tell with this version of Little Women. I was incredibly surprised by all of it. And by the end, like you, Perri, I was in tears, but I was certainly in love with the characters I saw on screen and wanted, like an idiot, wanted a sequel. I legitimately wanted a sequel
Little
when
Women
I walked
2.
out. Little Women 2.
There we go.
I would watch that.
I just agree with everything you both said. I think that Greta Gerwig, it is a more ambitious film than Lady Bird. I mean, I've related more to Lady Bird just because it was more contemporary. I mean, it's modern. Little Women, all I read was the book when I was a kid in school, but I just really admired the way she took the source material, stayed true to it, stayed true to the time setting, but there were still elements of the story, of the relationships, of the way that the characters thought, especially Jo Marsh, played by Saoirse Ronan, who's looking at an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. I felt like there were elements of the film that felt very current and contemporary and modern, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful film.
Saoirse Ronan is just the definition
She's awesome.
of a lead actor.
Yep.
She is such a strong anchor for this movie, and I feel like that's a very difficult role to nail in a sense, especially, in watching this and seeing her opposite Florence Pugh, who she is incredible. She's having quite the year.
Yes.
I think of the entire cast, I might be rooting for Florence Pugh the most, but I think it's because that role is, I guess I would describe it as like a little showier in a sense. She has certain moments in the movie that feel like, sometimes you walk away from these things and you're like, that's your Oscar clip moment. That's what they're going to play.
The for consideration.
Yeah, and something with the role that Florence Pugh has makes that a little easier to picture. Whereas, I don't want to necessarily call Jo like the straight woman of the bunch, but she's the heart. She's the foundation. And, with the endeavors that she's trying to achieve, I feel like, hitting peak emotion with a role like that is very, very challenging, but she navigates that path so well where, especially with the time jump thing, it's all over the place, but they hit the climax for that character at just the right point.
Yeah.
And it really, it felt like the ultimate punch to the gut to me, and it was so well earned.
I think the time jump thing really does help volume. How can I say this? I think the time jump thing really helps Florence Pugh's character. Helps you to appreciate who she is as an actress, what she plays in one section of the movie versus what she plays in a later section of the movie, and you're just like, this is incredible. And you're 24. To me, and I'm out of my freaking mind for saying this, but this is akin to Orson Welles and what he did in Kane. She has this talent at such a young age that I can already see 4 Oscars in this woman's future. From Fighting with the Family to Midsommar to Lady Macbeth to this. The woman is an absolute powerhouse, and she's only 24 years old.
Lady Macbeth was terrific.
You're right. It's mind-blowing
Lady
to me.
Macbeth was
Cersei,
great.
you're right, Perri. Cersei has been a lead since like 12 years old. She just has this energy of hers that she's going to go forward on this.
She was nominated.
I want to give a little love to Laura Dern. I like this role better than the Marriage Story role. I think she should be nominated for this for Best Supporting Actress than Marriage Story. I think she had more to do here than she did in Marriage Story. So I'm happy to see Laura Dern getting back into our eyes again as an incredible actress.
We haven't even mentioned Timothée Chalamet.
Oh yeah, Chalamet, who's so solid.
He's got like quite the load to lift in this as well. And I think what you bring up with Florence Pugh and just showing off her skill set with the time jump and seeing the two contrasts as to where that character is at those points in her life, you could apply the same thought to Timothée Chalamet too and what he does with that role.
Yes.
The only flaw with the film, and it didn't ruin the movie, but it was definitely noticeable, was that the 2 hour and 20 minute running time, it did feel a little long.
Yeah.
I definitely, towards the end, felt like it was going to wrap, and it kept going, and that's okay, because I liked where it went. I certainly liked where it went, but I think it's a wonderful film. It's a ravishing film, and I think Florence Pugh really stood out among this ensemble, and along with Saoirse Ronan, and an amazing year. She started the movie Fighting with My Family. She sort of ended the year with another version of Fighting with My Family.
I never thought
So
about
she
that.
ended the year with 2 Fighting with My Family types of role, but it's a wonderful film. I love Little Women.
I don't want to completely overlook Emma Watson and Elizabeth Scanlon either, because even though everybody's talking about Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh deservedly right now, I thought the two of them made the most of what they had. And I don't know, I'm just very impressed. And again, this is coming from someone who has no familiarity with the source material whatsoever. I will say, I do feel driven now to actually read it after managing to avoid it throughout my entire school career. But the two of them, and especially the way that Greta Gerwig gives every single member of the ensemble a very full arc, that is not an easy thing to achieve, even with a 2 hour, 20 minute running time. And, that's part of the reason why I was glad the movie was as long as it was, because, no one got shafted. Everyone got a very full, very human story. And I think you already brought it up, Rocha, the pacing of this movie never made it feel that long to me. The only thing that made it feel long was the fact that I got exhausted exhausted from crying at a point. And I'm like, oh, I need to go to bed.
Well, the book written by Louisa May Alcott,
Yeah.
she did right by the book, and she also made a movie that, whether you read the book or not, it's still a wonderful movie on its own terms. You don't need to see any of the other versions. Just see this one.
All right. That is our review of Little Women. We have one more topic to hit today, and it's the Invisible Woman story. But first, we've got some stuff to tell you about. Good thing Mantz is on the table for this one, because we have some great ArcLight FYC screenings.
Oh my gosh.
2 of them coming up. First one we're going to tell you about is this Joker screening. If you want to get tickets to this, you can find all the information on Collider.com. It's happening on Tuesday, December 3rd, so you're going to want to check that out. It's going to have a Q&A with the director of photography on the movie, and then on top of that, we also have a screening for Rocket Man. Another
Wow.
Q&A for this one on Saturday, December 7th, and we've got Taron Egerton, Jamie Bell, and Dexter Fletcher on board for this one. A lot of good stuff coming your way for Collider FYC with the screenings, just with the show in general. It's been a good season thus far.
Very excited.
So now we have a little video we want to share with you, because as some of you know, I recently went off to Cabo for the Jumanji The Next Level junket, and I got to tick off an item on my bucket list, bungee jumping. Now you can see it for yourself. Roll the video. What's up, guys? Perri here in Cabo for what is essentially my junket dream come true, talking about movies, specifically Jumanji The Next Level, and going bungee jumping. It's no big deal. It's going to be fine. Let's go do it. It's happening. We're making our way out to the gondola that we're going to jump off of. It's right there. And this is what we're jumping into.
Here we go. We say 3, 2,
lucky I love movies so much. Otherwise, I might run off and become a professional bungee jumper. But this whole thing was incredible. Riding a UTV across that bridge there, getting to bungee jump, getting to talk to the cast of the film, Jumanji Next Level, in theaters December 13th. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you guys soon. I can't stop smiling watching that. That might be one of my favorite moments of all of 2019. I was so excited to go bungee jumping. You probably know I didn't stop talking about it a couple of days before I left.
Yeah, but I think it looks great. It looks fantastic. I watched, and The Rock retweeted you.
I know.
Oh, The Rock retweeted. That was so cool.
He's really super cool. This is my first time meeting Dwayne Johnson, and you know, the reputation is totally true. What a cool, passionate, kind guy.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever go bungee jumping?
No.
Really?
No, not for me.
You would?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I would go
heartbeat.
skydiving though. I'd rather go skydiving than bungee jumping.
See, this I have
I'll
more
go
fear
skydiving
of
with
than
you.
bungee jumping.
Really?
Yeah, FYC skydiving?
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Dude, can we just make that a thing for no reason?
Skydiving, I would absolutely. Bungee jumping, it's weird because bungee jumping, you're not far to drop. But what if the
Right.
thing snaps? But then what if the parachute doesn't open? So,
You
but
could
yeah, I
play
would
that
rather go
game with
skydiving.
any extreme sport. I think the big difference between the two is that, so skydiving, especially if you're new to skydiving, you have to go with like an instructor. You have to go tandem. So you're attached to a pro. They can kind of nudge you out of the plane a little bit. I think the only point where I actually felt nerves bungee jumping was I was totally fine. And then all of a sudden when you're on that platform, that gondola, and you step, and I was the first one to go. So I stepped to the edge, and that's where it sinks in that you, like
whoa.
all you, have to fling yourself off this platform into like the abyss. That's
Wow.
where,
I saw
a
it.
little twinge of nerves. You see my hand reach out?
Because you can see when Perri gets ready, when Perri's nervous or something, she has to settle into her core.
Yeah.
And you can see her legs kind of flay out a little bit, and then she goes, F it. And I was like,
You
all right,
didn't
I respected
hear
that.
my like 20 questions to the guy too, because it was a very
sounds
strict
right.
form you had to jump off with in
Yeah.
order for like the experience, for you to experience to its fullest and its safest. And it's like you're supposed to go out Superman style and like keep your eyes straight ahead. And I must have repeated like Superman straight ahead like 20 times over before I actually jumped off the ledge.
Wow, that's so awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
Oh, gee,
Way to
thanks,
go.
Mantz. All right, let's roll into that final topic of the day. We're talking about a new project for Elizabeth Banks. She's set to star in and direct Invisible Woman for Universal. So the deal is with this one, because we also have Lee Whannell's Invisible Man coming up. So this is all information about the previous versions. We're hearing that the Invisible Woman movie will not be linked to Lee Whannell's upcoming The Invisible Man, but that the movies are inspired by the same story, presumably that story being 1933's The Invisible Man movie. So you guys hear this? I have so many questions. First, let's start with Elizabeth Banks. I'm not sure who here saw Charlie's Angels, but
I saw it.
do you have faith in Elizabeth Banks as far as her being a director going forward?
Well, you know, the fact that this news broke after Charlie's Angels underperformed big time with an $8 million opening, and the reviews were not kind, but yet the studio is still moving forward with her starring and directing the movie. Look, they could have looked at the opening of Charlie's Angels and been like, let's dodge this bullet and get someone else. But they still showed faith in Elizabeth Banks to direct this movie. So if the studio is showing faith in them after Charlie's Angels, I'm showing faith in her too. Also because, you know what, Charlie's Angels had a $50 million budget, and it looked like it had a lower budget. And it just didn't have the cast. The cast didn't have the gravitas of what the first two movies did with Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu, and then McGee directed those movies. It didn't have the style. It didn't have the strength of it. You know, those movies are from 2000 to 2003. You know, Charlie's Angels had a lot going against it. But I still feel like if the studio was still banking on Elizabeth Banks,
Hey-o.
come on, go with the puns, go big or go home. If they're still gonna put their money in the banks.
Oh boy.
Okay. Come on.
You can't end on two. We need one more.
I need
You gotta
more.
round it out with
I
a
need
third.
more in the drink. Go ahead, yeah.
You know, if they're willing to not go bankrupt.
Hey-o.
Oh, okay. It's okay, enough. No, seriously, I like Elizabeth Banks a lot. I believe her as an actress, as a producer, as a trailblazer, as a director. You know, look, so what? So Charlie's Angels didn't do well. The studio's still moving forward with her for Invisible Woman. Go for it.
I liked Charlie's Angels quite a bit. I had a lot of fun with it, but I will repeat what I said in my review, is that I think a lot of my enjoyment came from cast chemistry. I really liked that trio, and while I think she did a fine job directing the movie, I didn't see anything that made me say, oh, red flags here and here and here for your directing abilities. I still get no sense of style from her.
Right,
it's like,
that-
I want to know
right.
what you're capable of that I'm not going to get from another director. And until I see that, I'm not going to necessarily see a breaking news story like this and be super pumped for Elizabeth Banks directing another movie. I hope that maybe this will change that, but I don't necessarily think that even though I like Charlie's Angels, that changed how I feel about her behind the lens.
Yeah. I have a lot of complicated feelings on this. I mean, I think she's incredibly funny. I think when she's doing her acting comedy-wise, she's great. I rarely buy her in dramas. I think she's limited in that way. But you can't deny what she did in box office, Pitch Perfect 2. But that was Kay Cannon's thing, right? And she took it over in the second film and directed, made all this money. Great. But Pitch Perfect 1 had been the sensation. So how much of it was Elizabeth Banks? How much of it was the IP? Then we get to Charlie's Angels. It underperforms. But once again, that's source material, just like Pitch Perfect. And now we're into Invisible Woman, which is source material. So I think there's a great point you bring up, Perri. What's her style? If we are not seeing her style off of source material, we have to ask ourselves, what is her style? What is the draw here? It's interesting they announced it right after the fact that it sank. Charlie's Angels is an interesting move. But look, how many years in Hollywood have we seen men do well, then not do well with their next movie, and then get another opportunity? So to me, I have no problem with her getting this opportunity. My concern is, what is she going to do with it? And those comments, whether misconstrued or taken out of context, how does that affect the movie-going audience who might go see this thing? Because remember, the original Invisible Woman is kind of a comedy. So is she going to do comedy with this? And if she does, I'm all for it.
Maybe
if she does drama and put herself in it as the star, that to me unsettles me a little bit because I didn't like that she put herself in Charlie's Angels. You don't need to. There's another actress that could have played that part. So there's a little ego working here as well, which is okay. It's Hollywood, male or female. There's egos all over the place.
She wasn't the lead.
She wasn't, but she put herself on the poster.
But also, when it comes to her talent as a dramatic actress, what was the movie she did last year? The dark version of Superman.
Brightburn.
Oh, Brightburn. She was great in Brightburn.
She was great in Brightburn, and the movie was really good. Underappreciated, underseen movie. It's a very good movie.
That was this year.
Yeah, that was this year.
Yeah, it was earlier this
Holy
year.
moly.
It went like this.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, it just came and went. So Brightburn, definitely worth seeing. But, when I saw that she was directing Invisible Woman, I went, oh, okay, interesting. All right, well, they must really have faith in her. And as far as what is her style, in order for her to define her style, she needs to direct a movie that is not based on an existing IP.
Certainly possible.
So look at Rian Johnson, who did Looper, and then he did Last Jedi. Now he's back with Knives Out, which is very, very much, a great movie, Knives Out, but it's also the movie he wanted to make. It is his style. So I think in order to find out what her style is, maybe she should, at some point, maybe before Invisible Woman or after, make an indie, make a movie that's an original film where she can really put her style into it. But having said that, I'm Team Banks.
So I think an excellent example of what you just said, because I was desperately trying to think of a director who just burst onto the scene with, an adaptation or a sequel or something that came before that wasn't an original IP. But then I started to think of the example of Leigh Whannell, who made his feature directorial debut, Insidious 3. I'm a huge fan of that franchise. I strongly disliked that installment of the series. I really do not like that movie. And then all of a sudden, he comes back with Upgrade. Yeah. And Upgrade changed the game for him in my eyes as a director. And now I have all the faith in the world in him for Invisible Man. So maybe... it still doesn't really fit, but maybe she does need her Upgrade in order to really make the most out of an opportunity like this. But the other reason why I emphasize style is so important is just because of the visual challenges of making a movie with an invisible character. It's part of the reason why I have great faith in Leigh Whannell working with that concept. One, that we have a trailer now that plays very well, but also look at what he did with Upgrade, with a character that was kind of inhabited by another being, and just the visual style and what he was able to achieve with something like that. That to me paves the way so obviously to Invisible Man, whereas she's got nothing in her wheelhouse that would suggest to me that you could do something interesting with that concept.
Why didn't you go to Olivia Wilde for this? That's a woman who comes onto the scene, actress.
She's working on something else.
Well, figure it out. Booksmart has style. Booksmart has a style.
Well, Booksmart's a terrific movie.
It is.
Also an underseen movie, underappreciated movie.
Right.
Annapurna dropped the ball on that by releasing that wide in May. That they should have held that back for October or even November, or select cities and platforms. But also a director like Todd Haynes, who does movies that are very much his style, like I'm Not There and Velvet Goldmine. But then he makes a movie like Dark Waters, which is very sort of I don't want to say contemporary, but it's broad. And Dark Waters is a great movie.
Well, Gus Van Sant does that too. Gus Van Sant when he started out independent stuff, then dipped into the mainstream stuff, then dipped back out whenever he felt like it. So to me, I'm concerned here also because look, she is very powerful as a woman. She wants to push. She is very much a feminist, and I appreciate that because that is something that she wants to accomplish in this world, and you got to respect that. But women didn't come out and see Charlie's Angels. We have to figure out what Elizabeth Banks' power is or attraction is, and if the fans or if movie-going public want to go see her material. So I think we'll see after Invisible Woman where we're at with her.
I have a very hard time believing that Charlie's Angels as a box office failure is her fault or any member of that cast's fault. I think we are in a very...
Who's blaming the cast? I'm not blaming the cast.
No,
winning
I
her.
don't think it's any individual. Like I don't think you could look at a movie like that and say this failed because of you. Nobody
Right.
wants to see your movies. No
Right.
one wants to see ladies
agree.
lead
Well, I'm
a
not
movie.
saying that. I'm just saying.
It has nothing to do with that. I think it's more of just a landscape concern. We happen to have been in a major lull at the box office, end of October, beginning of November. You had something like Joker just sweep the box office for so many weeks. Then all of a sudden you got people saving their money for Frozen 2 and all the holiday movies coming up. We were just in a crappy time at the box office. I think if Charlie's Angels, again, had been released any other time of year, maybe it would have had a better chance. I'm not saying that would have been a smash hit, but I don't think it was any individual's fault where I will think about that and say, the next time Elizabeth Banks directs a movie, it's probably going to be a box office bomb because people didn't turn up for her last one.
Why wouldn't you? Why do you have to cop out by saying it this here, this? No. People come to see whatever they want to come to see and what they don't want to come see. And if they didn't want to come see it, that says volumes. This is a female-led action movie that was touted as such. So if people didn't show up, it can't just be where it was released. There has to be more involved here. It can't just be where it was
There's always
released.
a million
'Cause if
factor.
you-
There's always a
you
million
can't count
factors
out-
involved.
Right,
But I would put, I would put, no, I mean, there's tons of things. You could loop in marketing and say that, say the
fair.
studio cut shitty trailers for that movie.
Absolutely,
Maybe
that's fair.
that was a
Yeah.
big
Or
thing.
maybe there's something to the fact that you're talking about when you have a property that hasn't had a theatrical presence in a very, very long
Yeah.
time. Dr. Sleep, which I loved. Dr. Sleep was great, and it bombed. Well, it bombed. It didn't do well. Charlie's Angels, the
kinda
last
bombed.
movie came out, it bombed. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I hate saying it, but it's
Trying
true.
to be glasses
Speak the
half
truth,
here.
yeah.
But look, Charlie's Angels, the last two movies, the last one, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, came out in 2003. I loved Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. I thought that was an awesome, great time at the movies. But that was 2003.
But there's another thing you can point to, right? Brightburn came out earlier this year. Gone. Who's leading that? Her and the kid.
But
so it's like, is there an
can't pin that
attraction
on
from a
That was
movie going
a,
public?
that was a smaller release.
That was a
That
small-
wasn't
Keep
like a
excusing
major.
her track record. I don't understand what
It
we're
isn't-
doing. We would analyze any other person this way.
It has nothing to do with her track record. Then I can make the exact opposite argument with her involvement in the Pitch Perfect franchise.
Which was what? 10 years ago. And she hasn't, when was
I think you're
the
dating
Pitch
the movie
Perfect?
a little bit.
What do you mean, the second one or the first one? She's funny as
well,
hell in the first one.
and the second, and even the first
But
wasn't
she didn't
15
direct
years
the
ago.
first one.
Yeah, it wasn't
she didn't
that long
direct the
ago.
She only
first, but she
directed the
was
second one.
still a big presence. That role has a
And
presence.
so was Higgins, right? Because they were essentially the same character. They were a duo the whole time.
I don't know. We're going to talk in circles
I'm
if
just saying,
we
yeah,
keep
yeah.
this up. But I still think that
You have to
Charlie's
look at a
Angels
track
isn't a good example of saying like you are box office poison
Right, I
for
agree.
anybody
I agree.
involved.
Okay.
I think that's more of a landscape and a branding issue. I think
The
if anything,
branding
it's
was bigger
people
than-
just weren't into another Charlie's Angels
That's
movie.
the bottom line. I
Or
agree.
not into another
So-
reboot, remake, sequel, whatever you want to
If Brie Larson,
brand
Gal
them now.
Gadot, and Lupita Nyong'o were in this Charlie's Angels, do you think it would do the same at 8.9 million?
John, if Emma
I
Stone,
don't think so.
John, if Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence were going to be in this version of Charlie's Angels, which is who they were going after,
Yeah.
that would have been a different movie.
I agree. There's the difference.
But
It
if you
isn't
had a
just
budget that
marketing
was- if
or
you had
where
a
it's
big-
released.
Well,
it's attraction.
With that in mind, then go back to, Zombieland did fairly well, but
Yeah, it's all right.
Zombieland had Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone.
Stone.
It
Yeah.
had Luke Wilson, Thomas. You could go on and
Rosario
on about
Dawson.
all
Yeah.
the famous faces in that, and it still wasn't necessarily like a smash hit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, neither
So I
was
don't
the
know.
original. It
Yeah,
did
I was gonna say,
well,
I didn't expect it to be a
But
smash
anyway, going around in circles here.
The question, we talk about this all the time,
Yeah.
the value of a name on a poster, and is that changing with the times? And, even the value of a brand name on a poster, and how much we're really interested
Yeah.
in seeing certain successful franchises come back to the big screen. And that conversation is going to continue because those movies aren't going to stop happening anytime soon. Let's take a couple Twitter questions live chat questions before we say goodbye. Oh no, I see like a message from Dorian here. Wait, let me read this really quick because it
Okay.
has your name in it, Rocha.
Oh no. Is he saying he can't do mailbag? He better be able to do mailbag.
Dorian wrote, I haven't seen Rocha be this positive about a review since the Transformers movies.
He's such a liar.
man.
I was
No,
positive about Rambo.
I know, you're positive about
Wait, which
1917 too.
Transformers?
You're
Yeah,
very
positive
excited
about
about that
1917.
movie.
It better have been the first Transformers or Bumblebee.
I love all the Transformers movies
I
except
just
the
love
second
Bumblebee.
one.
I
Except the
I
second
like the first one. I love Bumblebee. I hate everything everything in between.
Well, it's a shame because it made
Yeah.
$4.5 billion. So
Well,
you were wrong.
money is not everything.
Well,
All right,
it
here's
is in Hollywood.
I got a Thanksgiving question for you. DANGMQ asks, favorite Thanksgiving food?
Favorite Thanksgiving food?
Yeah.
Oh, mashed potatoes. It's
tough.
I'm a big mashed potatoes
Me and
guy.
you.
Oh, of course.
I would probably eat nothing else on the table
Yeah.
and just eat a
I
big
just
bowl
go
of
for the
mashed
mashed potatoes.
to-
Bring it on.
Turkey's
really.
already given for all of us, I think. Stuffing would be my choice. Stuffing with gravy.
Okay.
Stuffing and mashed
Do you guys
potatoes.
cook?
No, but I eat the cooking.
Yeah.
I'm good at eating the cooking.
I have cooked
I don't even
before.
eat the cooking. I eat the food that my family ordered in because no one in my family cooks. You knew it was going to be true.
Yeah, it's fair.
I thought
right.
they were going to ask what's your favorite Thanksgiving movie to watch on Thanksgiving
Oh,
weekend.
we've discussed that a little bit, but what's your pick?
I love Sound of Music. Sound of
okay.
Music is
We
such
haven't
a
heard Sound of
good
Music as a
holiday
suggestion.
movie. You know, whether it's Thanksgiving weekend or Christmas weekend, it's a timeless classic.
Do you know what my pick is?
For a favorite Thanksgiving
Yes.
movie? No.
It's Final Destination because nothing brings my family together faster than a Final Destination movie.
Fine. I never would have guessed that.
Exactly. That's
Good
why I
point.
asked.
Who watches
yours?
movies on
What's yours,
Thanksgiving? It's
Rocha?
3 football games. The NFL. That's what the answer
no,
is. You un-Americans.
I
It's
have to
about
watch
football,
some football.
damn it.
I have to watch some football.
That's
I
right,
have to
you
watch
do.
I have to watch the Bears game. All right, let's see how many more we can get in right now.
All right.
Jonathan Caro says, if you have seen the Macy's Thanksgiving parade or any other parade, what's your favorite parade float? Also, what character would you create for your own parade float?
Jeez.
Baby freaking Yoda
Yeah.
needs
Good
a
answer.
balloon.
Good answer. Good
Baby
answer.
Yoda.
That is the answer, I think.
Yeah.
I've been to the Thanksgiving guy family in New York, so I've been to Thanksgiving many times. You know, come on, what's a Thanksgiving parade without Spider-Man? Spider-Man
Okay.
is
Fair
a great
point.
float. Spider-Man is New York City.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is I think the ultimate big balloon float at a parade, and especially at Thanksgiving.
I like Homer Simpson whenever he's afloat. Or is it Bart? Either one of the Simpsons, because there's always some interesting cracks they make whenever the Simpsons come rolling by with their thing.
Even-
What will be your float?
Baby Yoda
Well,
would
even
be
as a lifelong New Yorker, you know, I've never actually seen the Thanksgiving Day parade live. The only thing I've steered clear, and also because one of my first jobs out of college was working for the local news there, New York One, and
Oh.
I always I purposely wanted to take Thanksgiving off to spend with my family, and I
Yeah.
would usually work on Christmas, but I did cover the night before when they blow up the balloons,
they're
and
just sitting there, yeah.
that's really cool because you could walk right up to it. It's like I have a picture of myself standing like right in front of it, and I'm like this teeny little thing in front of this
Oh, that's
giant.
cool.
No, but that part was very cool. But I like watching it on TV.
You know, Thanksgiving parade, the Rose Bowl parade, going to Times Square in New York City.
that
Times
is
Square.
an experience that I've done.
You got to do that at least once.
Once.
And
Once
then you
is
do
more
it,
than
you're
enough.
like, never again.
Yeah, once is more than enough.
Because like I didn't even go as like a person being corralled. That night I went for work, and even just being there with a press badge, being able to go in and out to an extent. Like I mean, we were there for hours and hours, and it was in. I think it was ringing in 2009, and it was something like the coldest New Year's on record in something like decades. It was freezing. At the very end of that night, I was assigned to film the cleanup, and they have like big like tractor thingies pushing stuff around, and one rolled over a full bottle of water, and it popped all over me. And but by the time I looked down, it had all frozen over on my coat.
Oh,
it
that's cold.
No, it was that cold. It was weird. It was a crazy night, but it was a good experience.
Very cool.
All right, one more holiday-related question before we go. Dorian added more, so I lost the one I wanted. Oh, here it is. Fillmore Pockets is asking, which 3 props from all of the TV shows and movies in 2019 would you wait in a Black Friday line to purchase?
Jesus.
It's a good question.
Baby
Forky.
Because
Yoda.
I love props.
Forky. I want
Forky?
I mean, Forky's easy.
You're going to wait in line for an animated prop.
I just want a real Forky. I just want a little Forky to sit with me at
I don't
Thanksgiving.
know if there's anything I'd
I would
want
wait
more
in
than
line to steal something from the mansion and Knives Out.
Oh, okay.
I
there you
want
go.
one piece of decoration. I don't know specifically what I would want. I think I would want the clock in Christopher Plummer's bedroom. There's just like a really cool old school looking clock. I think I would take that.
I would stand in line for Captain America's shield from Avengers Endgame signed by Chris Evans.
Oh wow, you just like
That's
raised
very
the bar.
particular.
That's like peak purchase
Well,
right
because
there.
I don't stand in line for stuff anymore, right? It's not worth the hassle. So I was like, if there's one thing I'm going to stand, I'm going to make it a big thing, and just one thing.
And I would stand in line for, I know this isn't film, it's TV, but for a uniform, full uniform, shirt, pants, the boots, from Star Trek Discovery.
Oh.
But wait a minute, the crew of the Enterprise.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
Captain Pike's
I like
uniform
that.
from the Enterprise with the gold shirt and the black
Ants
pants.
and Mounts, yeah.
Ants and Mounts uniform. Yeah.
guys
I
really
think they
go
probably
for it.
sell
Oh, yeah.
those, you know.
I
but-
feel like my mind goes to more practical things. Like, what can I reasonably put in my apartment?
Oh,
So
there
it's
you
like
go.
I'm thinking, like I'd probably wait in line even for a pair of screen used scissors from Us. Like I would
Oh,
go for
yeah.
I would go for
Well.
all of my favorite like my favorite movies.
Well, here's the thing with all the stuff that we're getting, you know, with all the year-end stuff, all the
Yeah.
slack from the studios,
Yeah.
that could be coming.
Do you know how many pairs of scissors we already have in the studio?
Yeah, right?
They're-
Oh, yeah.
Well, they, you know, for all the mailers since the
Yeah.
very beginning of that,
Oh,
I'm
is that
surprised
right?
no one
Yeah.
in this office dressed up as someone who is tethered because we have a million scissors floating around. And the sad thing is they don't actually cut anything. They don't work.
Yeah.
there
No,
you go.
it shouldn't work.
Don't give a pair of
know.
scissors to John.
Well,
Give
it's
a pair
also
of
because like scissors in the Collider office are like gold. It's like
Yeah.
if you buy a pair of scissors, someone will take them and not put them back at some point.
Yeah, I'm trying to sell mine. Hey, if you want to buy them, reach out to me.
All right, guys. That's it for today's movie talk. So we will not be back tomorrow. I hope you enjoy the holiday with your family, your friends, your loved ones, but we will have an episode, a special episode for you on Friday. So stay tuned for that. And as far as live movie talks go, I'm missing the beginning of next week because I'm going to go do some coverage of The Marvelous Miss Maisel season 3.
Yeah.
And guess who is in charge?
Get
This
ready.
guy.
Get ready. We're
Right
gonna have
this
some fun
guy.
there. Get ready.
You're in good hands. Rocha Mantz, thank you so much for
Thank you,
spending your
Perri.
Wednesday
Always the
morning
best.
with me.
You guys
It really
rock.
is.
Awesome.
Adam in the booth, Dorian in the live chat. You guys rock. Thanks so much for everything. To everybody out there, do not leave without liking and sharing this video. And also, don't go anywhere else after this except for Collider Live. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone. See you soon.